Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to A Girl in Love with Tech podcast. My name is Rachel Irabor. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a Power Platform developer, and a Dynamics 365 CRM developer. And today we are going to be looking at ALM in Power Platform with deployment pipelines with Damola. Hi, Damola.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. It's pretty hot, but I'm good.
Yeah, sorry, and congratulations on your MVP platter. I saw that on LinkedIn. I
Yeah,
think yesterday or a few days ago.
I think a few days ago. I've forgotten the day I posted it, but I don't think it was yesterday.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank
It's
you.
awesome.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. And this podcast is streamed live on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and also my YouTube account. So do to follow me everywhere. Thank you. Okay, so hi Damola, if you can please introduce yourself.
yeah, cool. So my name is Damola Ojoniyi. Uh, Power Platform. I mean, I've transcended a lot of roles in Power Platform. Uh, in development, functional consultant, and currently sysadmin. And it's much more of around the platform architect, ALM, security, and
Yeah,
just like overseeing the whole platform for developers, local developers, pro developers, and everyone
yeah,
in an organization. My experience span back to like 6 years. I started in IT tech specialist before moving to Power Platform role. I've been doing Power Platform in the last 4 years. Journey through different industries. I'm so lucky in my career. I always say that.
that's awesome.
I've I've been in manufacturing, working with the largest breweries all over the whole world, AB InBev,
That's awesome.
yeah, as a tech specialist. And from that, I moved to biotechnology, which is very strange because in biotech, it's just like another word in IT. They do
Okay.
absolutely different things in biotechnology in
Yeah,
the last few years. Then after that, I moved to Heathrow Airport, where I'm currently working as a Power Platform sysadmin in the United Kingdom. I do a lot
yeah,
of things around Power Platform. I do a lot of community things around Power Platform. I'm
yes.
currently
You do.
more.
You're listening to us, everyone. Hi. So Damola was part of. He was a speaker. That
Yeah,
was last month for our meetups, which is Dynamics 365 and Power Platform User Group Malta. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, so I do a lot of events speaking. I think I spoke in one of the global Power Platform for the one in Florida this year. This
that's
global
cool.
platform, yeah, this global power platform that we do. Currently, power platform multi super user for the community where people ask questions and we resolve issues for them.
Okay.
I've been doing that for the past like 2 years. I
Yeah.
love Power Platform. I do a lot of things around low code and pro code development. And currently, I'm just looking into the platform engineering as a whole around security,
Yeah.
ALM, and governance and compliance. That's
That's
just
pretty
me.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're kind of everywhere with so much experience and also diving into security and governance. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I think that there are different questions I have to ask you, but we're just going to be winging it.
All right. That's
And
fine.
if you're listening to this podcast, please ask your questions. And Damola is here to answer all your questions because we're going to be talking about everything ALM and deployment pipelines in Power Platform. So I think the first thing I want to ask, especially for our listeners, maybe this is the first time they are hearing about Power Platform. Before we dive into the presentation, maybe this is the first time they're hearing about Power Platform. So what is Power Platform to you in your own words? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I came across Power Platform like 4 years ago
Okay.
when we were trying to do some development to migrate some apps in my previous workplace. And
Yeah.
it came across as just getting what we want faster and more efficient. So when I read up about Power Platform and what Microsoft was trying to do, it's just like we're trying to do things faster, we're trying to do things more efficient, and we
Okay.
just want to push development, we want to push into production without having to go through all the stress that pro developers do. And in software development, it's just about four things: create, read, update and delete. As soon as your software can do that, that's just basically what a software does. You need to create the data, you need to get users to read the data, you need to update the data, and sometimes you need to delete the data. Basically, interactions with data in a database. What Power Platform does for you is it makes this very easy for everyone to do. You have database, connecting to the database, creating data in the database, reading them, creating dashboards and everything. Power Platform from Microsoft just comes like, okay, it will make this very easy for you. Why? We build the code, you just
Okay.
have to write a low code upon the codes that we've built. So they have
Yes.
everything written in C sharp. They have a lot of API flows that gets the data for you, read the data for you, create the
Yeah.
data and delete the data on the back end. And you just have to write just a little bit of code to get things done. And the way I say Power Platform is, if you want to create innovations, if you want to go digital in your organizations, and
Yeah.
you want to do it in a very efficient way, you want to do it in a very secured way, and you want to like get the innovations fast into production rather than going through all the ropes of pro development, then
Yeah.
Microsoft Power Platform is just the right tool for you. It's just the way
Yeah.
to go.
Power Platform is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think there's one thing I also love about Power Platform is what Microsoft has been able to do, where they have been able to bridge the gap between developers and non-developers.
yeah,
So with you even being a developer and with you not being a non-professional developer, you can work with Power Platform. So it's pretty
yeah.
amazing and it's mind blowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's just bridging the skill gaps that we have all over the whole world for pro developers. Getting
Yeah.
pro developers into jobs is not really so easy like that. What Power Platform just brings for you for organizations is it bridges that for you. You can get everyone in your organizations, not no barriers for the roles that they are doing. You can be in HR and build an app that does a lot of things for your department. You can be in operations. You can be in anywhere and do a lot of things. And it's quite amazing from Microsoft. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And kudos to everyone working on the platform itself. Yeah.
Yep.
And and I think I have a question to ask. We want to be more focused on the question. So which is ALM? I think when people hear about ALM, they're like, okay, what is ALM? So I don't know if you can give us a little bit view about what ALM is. And if you're listening, ALM is application lifestyle management. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So ALM is just basically how you manage the life cycle for your applications. So I've built it. I want to test it. I want to get it. I want to get users to access it to work with my application. So before in Power Platform is kind of dicey when we started because you need to start building applications and you start naming them. Test, you start naming them.
yeah.
Development, you start naming them in another name for people to know the ones you want to share with your users to use and just to keep developing. And what ALM now does, and I mean in Power Platform, is you have environments where you create different apps in all the environment. You create
Yeah.
solutions for your hub, for your flows, environment variables, your connections, and everything you want to do. And
Yeah.
basically now in Power Platform is to do that to get the life cycle in place. I mean, from development to test to QA, if you have that, and to production, you need to get a mechanism for moving these solutions from one environment to another. So
Yeah.
in a Power Platform, the whole life cycle is we need to get something to help us move our solution artifact. If you
Yeah.
don't understand solution artifact, it's like a container that contains your apps, your
Yeah.
Power Automate flows. If you
Yeah.
have
But
database for your application, which are tables, dataverse tables, and environment variables, web resources. If you're using Power Pages in a model driven
yeah.
app, your workflows and everything. Yeah, so it's just like a container that fits everything you are doing in Power Platform. And the lifecycle management is moving it from one environment to another environment for your user to access your application.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I think the great thing I love about pipelines is that you don't have to, because when we are building a solution, we have different environments. We have
Yep,
the one for testing, we have the one for building, production. You
yep,
understand? We have development, production, and any other environments that you want to create for
yep.
that particular project. So instead of just importing those solutions manually, you can just have easily have a pipeline that moves everything from one place to another for you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pipeline is just like rather than manually exporting your solution, creating a lot of zip files in your local folders on your computer to import them to a different environment. What the pipeline does is it links up all these environments. It links up all the environments into one pipeline, like all the stages of the development into one pipeline, and it
Yes.
allows you to move them one after the other while
Yeah.
keeping the versioning for all these application solution
Yeah.
artifacts intact,
Yeah.
and you understand where you are. You are like, I'm moving from this place to this place. I know what
Yeah.
I need to do before I move from this place to another place. We places I meant by environment. You get what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I think in creating of pipelines, we have different ways. During the presentation you did, that was last month
Yep.
for the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform User Group Malta. There's something you showed, and I loved it a lot. It was because me, I'm more familiar with pipelines in Azure DevOps, and you actually showed
Okay.
how to create, yeah, you actually showed how to create pipelines inside of Power Platform, which is cool and fast. So you don't have to think so much about it, and
Very
I love
fast.
that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, anything that is
Yeah.
fast is nice. Yeah, so I don't know if you can just go ahead and show us that. So if you are listening to this podcast and you have
Yeah.
any
Definitely.
questions, please just ask your questions in the comment section. Okay, so should I remove
Okay.
this?
I don't know
Okay.
if you can still see my screen. I just want to
Yes,
load the screen.
definitely.
If you try to see that, yeah, that should be, yeah, definitely does it. Okay, yeah, that's it. So I will just start for creating pipelines in Power Platform from the scratch. So
Okay.
in recommendations from Microsoft, the recommendation is you have a different environment for your pipeline, and
Yeah.
you can do this and you cannot do this. If you don't want to do this, what I recommend is you create the pipeline in your development environment. But
Okay.
basically, the recommendations is have a different environment that hosts your pipelines, which makes
Okay.
it very good for you to maintain it, to update it, and do everything. So before we go into
Sorry.
starting the
Hi,
pipelines,
Damola.
yeah,
Hi. Okay. There's something I want to ask that you mentioned. You just said about
yeah,
when creating pipelines, it is advisable not to create the pipeline inside of your development environment. Is that what you meant?
yeah. I mean, it's advisable to create an environment, a specific environment for your pipeline.
Okay.
But if you don't have the capacity to do that, because I understand capacity add-ons in Microsoft environment, another place you can create the pipeline, I mean, deploy the pipeline application is
Yes.
your development environment. So in application life management cycle, of course, you need to have your development environment, you need to have your test environment, you need to have your
Okay.
production environment, and sometimes staging environment or quality
Yeah.
assurance environment, which is QA. So rather than
Okay.
having a different environment which hosts your pipelines, you can also host your pipeline in your development environment, which is just
Okay.
another thing to do.
What do
But
you
but
think? What do you think about default environment? Do you think it's advisable to deploy it?
uh, in environment strategies for Power Platform admins, you don't want to keep things like your pipelines in your default environment. It's not
Okay.
really advisable because when you're putting governance and compliance in place, there are
Yeah.
limitations to what you can do in default environment.
Okay.
And
Think.
with that, you don't want to put pipelines there at that limits things you want to do because as soon as you start getting into application lifecycle governance compliance in organizations, you are going away gradually from default environment to start creating different environment. So in environment strategy from platform, you can either have one which is just one development, one test, and one production for the whole organization, depending on the size and how you want to set out your strategy. You can have different business units for different environments. So I won't advise people to create pipelines in default environment. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much for answering my question.
yeah,
And if you are watching this podcast live, drop where you're watching it, where you're joining us from. Me, I'm currently at Malta, and Damola is in the UK. So just
yeah.
let us know where you're joining us from. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Cool. So I'll start from the environment. So before getting to the podcast today, I created like a sandbox environment that I will use, which is
Yeah.
Rachel's sandbox environment.
Yeah.
I hope
I
I
will
spelled the
present
name right.
you.
So
Yeah.
I'll be deploying the deployment pipelines into the sandbox environment. So when you create this sandbox environment, just make sure you toggle on the Dataverse environment and you enable Dynamics 365 apps, because the pipeline was created by Microsoft as a Dynamics 365 app. So you need to
Okay.
ensure that you want your environment to have that and you want Dataverse turned on. And of course, pipeline is a feature of a managed environment. So you might probably want to turn your environment to a managed environment, which is another
Okay.
very cool feature from Power Platform. So this environment, I'll just turn it to a managed environment, just enable the managed environment here,
Okay. So you
and
just have to
that's all I need.
you just have to so you just have to click on the environment. Okay. So you just have
Yeah,
to go
click
to
on
your
the
Power Platform.
environment, then
Yeah. So
admin. Yeah,
sorry,
admin
just
section.
trying to break it down in case of anybody who is watching and the person is confused. So you just have to
Yeah,
go
cool.
to your Power Platform admin center, which is admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, or you can go through from Power Apps. You can just click on your settings at the side, and then it will take you directly to your Power Platform Admin Center. And after coming to this particular Power Platform Admin Center, you just have to go to your environments, and then you can either create an environment, or if you already have an environment, like what Damola has showed, if you already have an environment, you just have to click on that particular environment, then click on Enable Managed Environments. Yeah,
Environment.
thank
Yeah,
you.
just need to manage environment. Yeah. So after you've done that, you basically have the environment turned to a managed environment,
Okay.
and you go into the environment, and from there you go to resources at the top bar
Yeah.
here, and you go to Dynamics 365. You go to Dynamics
Okay.
365 here, and when you go there, this just takes a little bit of time to come up. Then you need to install an app. So I'll
Okay.
be installing the deployment pipeline app from here. So if you go here and you
That's
scroll down,
yeah. Okay, so what are we looking for when clicking on install app?
yeah, we are looking for the pipeline.
Okay,
Okay. Did I install this before? I'm not sure I've done that.
okay, no problem. It's fine. Take your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see if my managed environment is turned on now.
Okay, sure.
It has to be a managed environment because it's a managed environment feature.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's enabled already. Yeah, it's managed. Okay, let's take it up.
Okay. So it seems that it's very, very crucial for an environment, for the enabled managed environment to be turned on.
Yeah, it has to be a managed environment. These are the instructions from the documentation from Microsoft for deployment
Yeah,
pipelines. Although I've had cases where I've
yeah.
deployed without the managed environment. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell
And what
Microsoft.
was there any bad experience?
Yeah. Oh, no bad
Hi, Damola.
experience. Obviously, it's just
Okay.
because managed environment. Yep. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's
Yes, I can
actually
hear you
because
now.
managed environment comes with. Yeah, it's actually because managed environment comes with issues around uh premium licenses.
Okay,
That's just because of that. Any other thing, I
okay.
love managed environment. It makes life easy for everybody.
Yeah,
Okay, for one reason
okay.
or the other, I can't find pipelines here.
Yeah, sure, no problem. It's fine. So if you are watching this, if you are yeah, watching this podcast live, if you have any questions, please just drop it on the comment section and ask your questions. And also let us know where you're joining us from.
Cool. Oh, wow. My eyes. I'm just kind of tired today. So I actually have it there before. So you look for Power Platform pipelines.
Okay.
You select these, and next you have to agree to the
Okay.
terms of services, of course. Then you install.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it.
That's nice.
That's the first stage.
Then
Yep, it's quite easy. So then the Power Platform pipeline starts installation
but
into your
sorry,
environment.
Sorry, I think there's a question I want to ask that I'm kind of
Yeah,
curious about. Because when you clicked on install apps, you had
yeah,
to actually go to resources and go to resources, go to install app, and then
yeah,
look for Power Platform pipelines. So
yeah.
how you mentioned something about installing it. Is it just us clicking on the enable manage environment that made it available here? Or is there?
Yes, yes. So according to the documentation from Microsoft, just like I said, you have to enable manage environment for you to be able to install pipelines into that environment. So
Okay, okay.
I kind of feel like the pipeline was there before, just like my ass was tired and switching system just in the last minute.
Yeah,
I actually didn't
sure.
see that. So,
Yeah, sure, it's fine.
so
I definitely understand.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when you click on install app, it brings the list for you on the side.
Okay.
So let me just go back again. Dynamics 365 install apps. You have the list here. You just have to scroll down to Power Platform Pipelines
Yeah. I
and you
think it's
install the app. Now I think it's trying to install.
okay. You just have to wait for it.
Yeah, yeah. You just have to wait for it to. So what Microsoft does is now it's installing.
Yeah.
So what happens in the background is Microsoft tries to deploy the Microsoft Dynamics 365 app to the environment you're trying to set up the pipeline. So the whole pipeline itself, just like I said, is a Microsoft Dynamics 365 app. So you have the pipelines, you have how everything you need to set up the pipelines, your deployment stages, uh, add the environment, your source environment, your target environment,
Yeah.
and everything you need to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So we just have
That's
to wait for it.
yeah. Sure. Okay.
So just hold on.
Yeah. Just have to wait.
Yeah, wait.
And
We'll wait for it.
what do you think about the experience? Like personally, what do you think about the experience with creating a pipeline and being able to update or upgrade? Like for instance, when you already have a solution. Okay, let's say for instance, an example we can give now. We have different environments we are using to build a solution. We have
Yeah,
the development, the testing, maybe the pre-prod or the
yeah,
production environment. And each and every one of them, they already have solutions in them.
yeah,
And when you are trying to move, like when you are trying to move a solution, a pipeline, you are trying to move a solution to the other environment, it's more of applying an upgrade
yeah.
to that environment. So what do you think about the personal experience with using this method?
Yeah, I think it's kind of good for me. And
Yeah,
now I'm talking not as a developer, I'm talking like as an administrator that have to overlook deployment of
yeah,
applications and managing everything in environment. So
yeah,
the way it works is depending on the strategy for your organization, depending on the number of users you have, depending on the number of makers you have,
yeah,
it's actually going to be different. But from all other methods that I know in application life management, we have the GitHub workflows, we have the Azure DevOps, that's
yes,
DevOps that you can use for your deployment, your build, and your releases as well. I see the deployment pipeline as the most efficient of other ones. Now, when you're coming for organizations that large organizations, I will use a
yeah,
large organization with a lot of makers. You don't want to create GitHub workflows for every environment you have to deploy applications. Why do I
okay,
say this? Managing it is going to be a little bit difficult for
okay,
administrators unless you want to have 5, 6, 7 administrators in your environment, in your organizations, or a DevOps engineer that looks after this in Power Platform because of the
yeah,
way the rapid changes the Microsoft deploy into Power Platform. It's just so rapid. Like the last time
yeah,
we spoke about deployment pipelines, I can
yes,
tell you I have new things I want to tell you about deployment pipelines on and
all
how to do it. Yeah.
right.
So now, apart from trying to set this up and doing all of this in your environment, now Microsoft just released something like, as a maker, I don't need my admin to create a deployment pipeline, like a pipeline. As
Okay,
soon as Microsoft Pipelines is deployed into an environment, when you try to move applications, you can quickly get a pipeline set up with
okay,
just add a pipeline, put the names there. I know in governance around compliance, it's not really
Okay.
efficient because you end up having a lot of pipelines. I mean, a lot of deployment stages in
Yeah.
your environment, which is not really good. But on another side, I kind of feel like what Microsoft is driving at is making things easy, making things efficient. And now back to your questions, depending on your strategy, when you're
Okay.
trying to undo a lot of makers and everyone trying to deploy across different business units, I will always go for deployment pipeline. Setting it up is easy. Removing an environment, adding a new environment is quite easy. And Microsoft just came up with something that allows, probably the last time we spoke in one of the user group, I talked
Yeah.
about when you're trying to create deployment stages and adding environments, your environment has to be in the same region in Power Platform. And just this evening, I was reading something from Bok when Bok said now you can add environment from different regions. So your environment doesn't have to be in the same region to deploy to them. You can deploy an environment from United Kingdom to United
Yeah.
States. You can deploy from Malta to United
Nice.
Kingdom. Yeah,
That's
which
nice.
is quite good, which makes it
Yeah.
very easy for everyone to do what they want to do. So just like I said, depending on your organization size and the number of makers that try and deploy solutions, I will go when you're trying to look for efficiency, I go
Okay.
for deployment pipeline. Makes life very easy and you get the results you want. And
Yeah.
it's
I
just the
think,
same mechanism with all of
yeah.
other ALM tools.
Yeah, and I think there's also one thing I have noticed too is that concerning pipelines, especially for a small project, like a
Yep,
project that they want a pipeline for that particular, they want to build a pipeline for that particular project. So I think this is a very
yep,
good method to follow because, like I said, I mostly use Azure DevOps for deployment. So I think this particular method is actually nice for a small project and definitely a
yep,
big
yep,
project. I think, yeah, if anybody is concerned about, okay, I want to create a deployment pipeline, and I think this project is too small to actually go to Azure DevOps and create a pipeline there, you can definitely just create it in an environment. Yeah.
yep,
So,
yep, sure. Just like you said, depending on organizations and your size, deployment pipeline makes it very efficient to start doing all of this application life management. So our
yeah.
pipeline is installed in the environment now, so which is quite cool. So what I need
Yeah.
to do is I'll go to the environment and I start
Okay.
setting up deployment stages and start setting up pipelines and adding environments and every other thing that you need to do. So the first thing is you need to add environments to your deployment
Okay.
pipeline. So
Okay.
adding environments, we have different kind of environments in pipeline. We have the source environment and we have the target environment.
Okay.
Excuse me. So in
Yeah.
application life management cycle, it's always development, test, and prod. So your source environment will definitely be your development environment, and your target
Yes.
environment will be your test
Your product.
and maybe your QA, your staging, and your production environment. So
Yeah.
for one pipeline, you can only have one source environment and
Okay.
multiple target environments, which means you can only start deployment from one source environment. So you can add
So
in
another,
a deployment stage, you can
that's
add just
true.
one source. Yeah, just one
Yeah,
source,
that's,
then multiple target environments. I mean, as you want,
yeah.
depending on what makes you happy.
Yes.
So I'll go to this environment now.
Okay.
So after deploying the Office 365, Dynamics 365 application, when you get environment that it was deployed to, you will see
Okay.
in your managed solutions, you will see
And if you are watching this, yeah, if you are
the
watching this, maybe this is the
deployment
first time you are seeing.
pipeline
Hi, Damola.
solution.
Okay. Hi, Damola. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I just keep
Yeah, sure,
losing
it's
you.
fine. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry
So
about
if
that.
you are watching this, this particular interface is Power Apps. Maybe this is the first time you are seeing it. So in order to get to this point, you can go to make.powerapps.com. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, cool. Make the power come. Go to the environment that you deploy the pipeline in the admin center, and you go to should be the model driven up now.
Okay, so you are going directly to a managed solution. Yeah. Okay. So how has your experience been working as a system administrator in Power Platform?
Oh, it's quite different. It's quite different from being a developer and
Yeah.
functional consultant. It's much more of looking after the platform, looking after governance, looking after security, being
Yeah.
the development advocate. You need to look out for every update that is coming from Microsoft and making sure your
Okay.
developers and your communities are aware of the updates, making sure everyone is developing in a very secure way. I
Yes.
mean, data are secure, security rules are assigned the way is assigned. I mean,
Mm.
it's quite interesting, but a different ball game from development, which is quite
Yeah.
good.
I think it's amazing, and I'm definitely curious. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this particular solution, this particular managed solution you went into,
Yeah.
it's a solution that is already there, right?
Oh yeah. So it's a solution that will be deployed to this environment when we install the
Yeah.
Power Platform pipeline from our Power Platform administration or environment. So when you install these from your Power Platform admin center,
Yes.
the Power Platform pipelines, the solutions. So you're going to have like 4 solutions installed in your environment, which is going to be
Okay.
managed solutions. There's app deployment anchor solution, app deployment model hub, the app deployment metadata, and the
Okay.
pipeline solutions. So you don't
Okay.
have to worry about the other ones. What you need
Yeah.
is the app deployment model hub. So because this is where you start creating pipelines, you create your deployment stages, you add your source environment, and you add your target environment here. So you go to the
Okay.
model driven app, deployment pipeline configuration, and you play the app.
Okay. I think it's nice. I love the concept of putting it in a modern driven app. It's really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes it very easy. Like, yeah, yeah, sure. Model driven, I
Yeah.
mean, it's quite good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first thing you need to do is to add environment. So I'll be
Okay.
adding my source environment and my target environment. So this is
Okay.
a new environment, and the name of the environment, I'll say
Yeah.
source environment,
Okay.
which is going to be my development environment.
Yeah.
Come on,
Oh, I
it's a
think
development environment.
okay. So okay, you choosing the environment type. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you need to look for the environment ID. So I'll probably
Yes.
just go back to my environment. So I have my development environment already. So I'll go to the development environment.
Okay, so in this particular scenario, when we're already in the environment already, so when you want to create an
Yeah.
environment inside of modern driven app for the pipeline, you have to go to your target environment, which is your dev environment, to get the environment ID, right?
Environment ID. Yeah. You can always get them before starting that, but you just go
Yes.
into the environment, get the ID,
Yeah.
and go back, put the
Okay.
ID in here. Yeah, that's it. Then that's all we need.
So-
And
Yeah.
save.
That's awesome.
Cool. And Power Platform is going to try and, wow, this is failed. Why?
Sure. Just try it again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have this environment already configured in my
In a
pipeline
different.
host environment.
Okay. Okay. I get.
So I need to go back to my previous pipeline. I mean, the pipeline that I use
Okay.
for my development. So this is like my developer's account. I create my open source projects from here.
Okay.
Give me a
Okay.
minute.
So you just want to. Yeah. Sure. No
I think
problem.
I need to do something about this network. Just give me a minute, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. If you have any questions, just drop your questions and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it should be, the network should be better now. It's funny how difficult the job role was. Okay, so I have this as a source environment here, and I
Okay.
will try and delete this now, which is going to give me space to add
Yeah.
it as a source environment in a different.
Is it not? Okay, you don't have to deactivate it first before deleting it.
No, I don't think. I just need to delete it, and this gives me, yeah,
Okay.
probably need to delete all of these, and I can go back in there and fix them later when I'm done with the podcast.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Should be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are back to my sandbox environment for this podcast, and
Yeah.
I will try and create this again.
Okay.
No, don't do that.
Okay. I think it's. I think there's one thing I like a lot is that.
Yeah, sometimes like that. Like,
Yeah, sorry. I think there's one thing I like a lot is that when you're trying to like build a solution or when you're trying to solve a problem and you have issues, like you have issues and then you're later able to figure it out, okay, this is what is happening. I think it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay, so I've been able to do that now. I've been able to add a source environment, which is my development environment. So you could get the validation here, which is
Yeah.
successful. So you need to
Okay.
be sure your validation status is successful, that it's been added as a source environment to
Okay.
your pipeline. So I've added a source environment. Just remember, just like I said, you can only have one source environment in a pipeline. So it has to be one
Yes.
source environment, then you can have multiple target environments, just like you have. So I'll be
Yeah.
adding target environments now.
Okay.
So environment. Okay, so this is going to be a target environment. The other one was a development environment.
Yeah.
And again, I will go into my admin and look for the
Okay.
environment that I need. Okay, so this is going to be, let me add the test environment.
Yeah. Okay, I think there's one question I have to ask you. The
Yeah,
first thing you did now, you created the source environment. You
yeah,
created a you created your source environment, and now you are creating your target environment.
target environment. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, so this is not going through because we have it as an environment again in a different
Okay.
pipeline.
Okay. So does that mean that a particular environment cannot have two pipelines?
Yeah,
Cannot.
so you can have two or Dynamics 365 apps. I mean,
Yeah.
two Dynamics 365 pipelines in the same tenant, but
Okay.
in one particular Dynamics 365, you can, if an environment is added to one, you cannot add it to another.
Okay. Okay.
So that's just the way it works. If an environment is added to one of the pipelines, you cannot add it to another pipeline. So imagine an
Okay.
organization having 100 environments.
Okay.
I've seen
That's a
I've
lot.
seen that before. Yeah, that's a lot. I've seen that before. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people have a lot of environments. I mean, when you're trying to get the strategy in place, which is dev, test, prod, and trying to create for each business unit, sometimes
Yes.
there's a lot of environment to create. And if you create these, you might probably want to manage differently if you have different guys managing different administrator taking over business units and you want to have different pipelines set up. So if you've added some environment into one pipeline, you cannot add them into different pipeline.
Yeah.
Always
Okay.
have that in mind.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining. Yeah.
Yep. I think I was trying
Okay.
to delete this the other time. It's telling me, okay, so I have something running here before that's not going. So I need to look at my run histories.
Okay. So if you are watching this and maybe you have an issue or the same issue, you can actually know what the problem is. Yeah. You can be like, okay,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
have an
sure.
environment. Well, yeah, so that's why this, I have a pipeline. That's why this is happening. Yeah.
Okay, you
So
know, I'm
hopefully,
just going to delete my previous pipeline environment that I use
okay.
for my open source development and just like get it back when I'm done with the podcast. So the good thing about the
Okay.
environment is you can always look for your recently deleted environment and restore them back to your tenant,
Yeah.
which is going to
That's
restore
pretty
everything
cool.
back for me. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah.
And while I wait for that, I'll just add another target environment.
Okay.
So what I can do is I have the development. No, I can't use my default environment as a target environment because it's not managed.
Yeah.
I can deploy to myself. Okay, I'll just wait for these to get done.
Yeah. Sure. No problem. So if you're watching this and you have any question, don't be shy. Ask your questions. Yeah. And I think I love this process a lot because it looks a little bit easy. And
Yeah,
even, yeah, even someone that is not really familiar with the platform can actually understand, okay, this is what I just need to do. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's,
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I have a blog post on how you can actually set up the environment set up the pipelines, deployment stages, and everything from start to finish. Probably just
okay.
find the link and post it here later.
Yes, please. I definitely need the link too. Yeah, just post it on the description and also on the chat. Yeah.
Okay, the listening environment takes time.
Okay. Yes, it does actually. And even
Yeah,
creating an environment too. I think when you are creating an environment and you just refresh it and you try and go to maybe Power Apps and you're trying to look for that particular environment, you're like, okay, what happened? Where's my environment? It's
it
just
takes
in
yeah,
there.
yeah, it takes a bit of time to get environment in sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's gone, and we are
Okay.
going to try and add this again.
Okay.
Then I need to delete
I think that's fine.
this. Then
Yeah.
I'll add it.
Okay.
And new. Just put it as a target environment. Environment type is a target environment. Try and get the environment ID, which is a test environment from here.
And when creating this particular stage we are in right now, is
Yeah.
there apart from our development environment and our target environment, is there any other type of environment
That's just the two you can have in deployment pipelines. It can only be a development environment and
or
a
a
target
target environment?
environment. So you can
Okay.
you can you can obviously have. So for one reason or the other, the environment is still sitting somewhere here,
Okay.
and I'll just try and be smart with this now and see what
Yeah,
comes
sure.
up.
Yeah. Okay. And I think there's something you mentioned. You mentioned the apart from enabling it as a managed environment, and you mentioned you not using your default environment. In case of those who joined late, you mentioned not that okay, no, I would not use my default environment as a target environment. Can you just give
Yeah.
a little overview of the reason why?
Yeah. So why I won't use default environment for hosting my pipeline is just because of governance issues, compliance issues, and
Yeah.
default environments will not actually support the ALM you're probably looking for in solutions. So, because of
Okay.
the way the default environment is set up by Microsoft, there are little or no compliance that you can add to the default environment. You cannot restrict people from doing things in the default environment, just like Microsoft said. So, in a way to get the right ALM circle culture in, you need to get different environments, which is going to be the dev, test, and
Yeah.
prod. And it's always your dev environments will always be different from your default environment. Your test and your prod is always different. So the default environment from Microsoft point of view is a personal productivity environment.
Yeah.
So this is where it's like a playground for everyone. You can do whatever it is that you like in this playground. But when you're trying to get serious, I mean, when you're trying to do the serious things, you need to get into environments that supports this.
Okay. That's
So
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got one of my environments as a target environment now, and it's a
Okay.
success.
Yeah.
So the
That's
validation is not success. Yeah. So
perfect. Yeah.
I go into my pipelines, and the first thing is you create a pipeline, new pipeline,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
reach
Richard.
for
Yeah. I'm representing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I just needed, the first thing you need to do is to save it, obviously. So
Okay.
this pipeline is saved.
Yeah.
Now we have the pipeline, which is Ritual Podcast that was
Yeah.
created. Now the next thing I need to do is add the deployment stages. So what is
Okay.
a deployment stage? When I'm trying to move from one environment to another environment, that is one deployment stage.
Yes.
When you move from another environment to a different environment, that is another deployment stage. So what the
Okay.
pipeline does is you have different deployment stages, and the pipeline just hold all of them together. So I hold the deployment
Okay.
stage from one deployment stage to another one,
Okay.
to I mean multiple ones you create in just one pipeline. So just to recap, the first thing I've done is I've created a pipeline. Now I need to create deployment stages inside the pipeline to move
Okay.
from one stage to another stage.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. So this is the first deployment stage,
Okay.
and I'll create a new deployment stage.
Yeah.
Uh, Fourth stage,
Stage.
and
And I think there's one thing I want to ask is that is it because the step-by-step process that we went through, the first thing we
yeah,
did, we went to the environment, like we
yeah,
went to the environment, we installed the
Power Platform
Dynamics.
pipelines.
Yeah, we installed the
Yep,
Dynamics 365, which was the Power Platform pipelines.
yep,
And then we came to our environment that we want to deploy the particular pipeline, and also where we actually also deployed this in Power Platform Admin Center.
yep,
And then I think the next thing we also did was going to the managed solution,
yep,
selecting it, and it's a modern driven app, which is
yep,
nice. And
yep,
then we went to environment in modern driven app, created the target environment and the source
yep,
environment.
yep,
And right now we are in the stage of creating the pipeline.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So we're at the stage of creating the pipeline. So when creating the pipelines, the first thing is you create a pipeline, then you add deployment stages into the pipeline, which is move one deployment stage is moving from one environment to another. The next
Yes.
one is moving from one environment to another. So the deployment stages, when I'm moving from dev to test, that is
Yeah.
one stage. When I'm moving from test to maybe staging environment or pre-production, that is another stage. Then when I'm moving from pre-production to production, that is another stage.
And I think there's one thing, I just have a last question so that we
Yep.
can be fast anyway. There's one question I have to ask is that the way you mentioned about the moving of the different stage,
Yep.
because in the way me I understand it is different because I understand
Okay.
it with Azure DevOps.
Yep.
So when you run a particular pipeline in Azure DevOps,
Yep.
and then your solution and you create your solution, your deployment to the different environment. You try and deploy to the different environments you want to
Yep.
deploy to. So let me say, for instance, we have three environments, for instance, now. We
Yep.
have the development environment, which is the main environment where everything is happening, all the Sharia is happening there.
Yep.
Then we have the testing environment and then maybe the prod environment.
Yep.
So if I do a deployment now that, okay, I want to do, because I want to try and understand what the stages mean. Let me say, for instance, I do a deployment now. I do a deployment to my testing environment
Yep.
because I made changes in my dev environment and I pushed what I have in my dev environment, I pushed it to my testing environment. So
Yep.
let me say tomorrow, to now I've done a deployment, I've pushed it to my testing environment. And let me
Yep.
say tomorrow I do another deployment
Yep.
and then I also push from the development environment to the testing environment. And I'm
Yep.
like, okay, I don't want to deploy my latest. I don't know if that works on this particular
Yep.
type
It
of
works. Yep.
pipeline.
It works.
Yeah, so if I say I don't want to push what I did today into prod. I want to push what I did yesterday into prod. Is that
Yep.
easy to
Yep.
establish?
It's quite easy to do. One of the announcements from Book today as well is when you are moving to an environment, you can always revert back to a previous deployment you've done to an environment. The only caveat around it is when you've revert back to that, the
Yeah.
the version you've reverted back to would be the latest version in that environment.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, so okay, so just to make it a little bit simpler, I've created the solution. This is version one. I've deployed to test.
Okay.
Then the next day I deploy version two to test. Then the next day I've deployed version 3 to test. Then after testing, I discovered what I've done in version 1 is actually the main thing that is expected for this sprint.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? I need to revert back to version 1. It's
Okay.
quite easy in your deployments or in deployment pipelines. So after this, we'll go to where you see the pipelines and how it works. You just
Okay.
need to click and revert back to a previous version. So from the deployment stage in development to test, I can always revert back to the previous versions, which are 2 and 1
Yeah.
for my solution. So what it does is in the background, it just return back to the previous version, overwrite the version 3 and make version 1 the
Okay.
live solution artifacts in the test environment. And from that, you can always deploy to your production environment. So after this, and when we start putting everything together, I should be able to show it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So if you have any questions, you're watching and you're not asking any questions. If you have any questions, please just ask your questions so that we can easily address any questions you have. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. This is the first stage, which
Okay.
is I don't have any previous deployment stage, so it's always going to be so the previous deployment stage being the first stage is going to be my source environment, which is my development environment. And from
Okay.
development environment, I'm moving to a target environment. So I'll save this,
Okay.
and after you've saved, I'll save here again as well.
Okay.
Then you need to share this pipeline to your users.
Okay. Do you need to share it individually or to security roles or to groups?
The way I advise to do it when you're managing on a large scale is to create an Azure AD group, security group in your Active Directory and just share it with the
Yeah.
group here.
Okay.
So, but this is just my account. I mean, it's just me alone,
Yeah.
and you give them the read access.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And one other thing that we missed when we were setting this up is if you need to add some security rules for users to use or the deployment pipeline in the
Yeah.
deployment pipeline environment. Yeah, so we need to go to security rules here. cool. No, I need to go to users, then add the security rule for myself for me to be able to use it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And I think there's one thing you did that I'm kind of curious about.
yeah,
When you manage the access to sharing the pipeline with
yeah,
yourself, the access you gave to yourself was a read access. So do
yeah.
you think that when you create a pipeline and you give a person a write access or any other access, do you think is it compulsory that it must be a read access?
Oh, just hold on for me. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, it's fine. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask your question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm back. All right. So to give in pipelines, because I'm just sharing the pipeline with users, I just need them to be able to read the pipeline. As soon as I give you write access, that means users can come into the pipeline and make changes to the pipeline, which
Okay.
as an administrator, I actually don't want people to do. I mean, I don't want you to delete a deployment stage. I don't want you to add a deployment stage that is not
Yeah.
agreed with everyone. So the read access is just the right access to give to users to be able to use the pipeline to move the applications from one environment to another.
Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
want to do everything. Yeah. Thank
Yeah, you don't want to get people to start messing things up. So when you deploy the Dynamics 365 to an environment, three security rules are created, which is the
okay.
deployment pipeline admin, default, and the users. So for anyone that you want to manage pipelines in your environment, you add them to the administrator. If you, I mean, you want them to make changes to it, which I
Yeah.
guess might not be the case for organizations, but depending on how you want it, depending on how you handle your governance and security, you can give a pipeline administrator to someone that you want to allow them to make changes to create pipelines and do every other thing in around
Yes.
deployment stages. But just to be able to use the pipeline to move solutions from one environment to another, they just need the deployment user, which I'm
Okay.
going to grant myself the security role for me to be able to use the pipeline.
Okay. That's awesome.
Okay, that's all good. That's all set up now.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do now is I need to refresh this. The pipeline environment is gone.
Okay. You said?
No, no, yeah, yeah. I think it's just taking some time to get it on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, cool. Here we are. So I need to go to my source environment to do my first deployment, which is my
Okay.
development environment in
Yeah.
my tenant.
To show how it
So
works.
what
Yeah.
I need to go to is, yeah, environment. So just like the way it works in GitHub workflow, the way it works in Azure DevOps, you can only start exporting an unmanaged solution. So you cannot export a managed solution out of an environment.
Okay.
What you can do is you can only export an unmanaged solution. So when you go to your environment, you need to get to the unmanaged solution. So uh
Yeah.
we just go to one of them.
Okay. Then you go to
I click on
pipelines. Yeah.
pipeline.
I'm always
This
like,
is not coming up yet.
I think when I started Power Apps, when I go to a solution and I see that pipelines, I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? Yeah, so definitely. Thank you for showing us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just for deployment yet.
yeah.
And my pipeline is not here yet, so I need to go back to the pipeline and see what I have here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I have the read, which is the right thing I'm supposed to have.
Okay.
It's quite good we are doing this from the scratch because now, if you miss
Yeah.
anything, you most definitely see it. And if it's
Yeah.
not set up the proper way, you will not
Yes.
see the pipelines you want to. Like the pipelines will not come up as a drop down for you. So I need to go back
Okay.
here, manage my
As a
security
user.
rules.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. App deployment or orchestration. No. Okay.
Yep. Need to check the other ones. I'm sure sometimes it takes
So,
like 1 or 2 minutes to get set up.
yeah, and I
Cool.
think there's also one great thing I love about this is that that's what I love about security rules and security and governance in Power Platform. Like
Yep.
without that particular thing being shared to you, you do not have access to it.
You
Yeah, so it's
you
good.
cannot do it. That's one of the beauty of security in Power Platform is the security rule
Yeah.
that Microsoft came up with. If you don't have everything right, you are
Yeah.
not going to get anything you want. Like you just have to get everything right. Okay, so we go back to the deployment pipeline.
Okay.
Let me be sure I'm sharing the right way.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. If
Yep.
you okay, you're back. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, okay, sorry. And yeah, I need to share everything is shared the right way. You're supposed to share it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously have one.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a joy of
Okay.
building or
There you go.
demoing something from scratch. So it's good.
Yeah, yeah. You if you start demo from the scratch, then you start getting all the errors you want and you start fixing them.
Yeah. It's good though. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get to see
Just trying to
you
look
get
at
to see
something.
okay,
Yeah.
you get to see different scenarios on when an issue will result. Yeah, and when you have
Yep.
that as a maybe as a listener or as a person watching, you can actually have an idea that okay, if the same problem or if the same issue occurs when I'm building this particular thing, I know what to do. Yeah, so
Yep.
it's nice. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Strangely, my pipelines are not coming up. I
okay.
need to fix it somewhere. Okay, just like the other one I was talking to you, like what Microsoft is currently doing is as soon as you have pipeline deployed in your environment, I can start creating new pipelines from here as
Yeah.
the source environment, and I start picking target environment. But I'm not gonna do that.
No. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm missing something.
Okay. I think that's
That's all about this. Yeah, you just need to read. Cool. There you go. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'll use a team here.
okay. Okay, so a team is also created concerning it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to add yourself to the team?
Yeah, I want to add myself to the team.
Okay.
It takes time when you start adding users to it on the back end. So I just use Teams, and
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easier that way,
yeah,
especially if
it's
you
easier that way when you're adding new people.
yeah, especially if you have a lot of persons, instead of adding them
Yep.
individually, you can easily just add a team and yeah, and assign these to creators.
Okay, that will be myself.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's creator.
And where's deployment pipeline user? Just add myself as an admin for me to be able to make changes if I need to make them.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That should be everyone I need. And I can also add myself here.
Yeah, just search and add it.
These look familiar for Dynamics 365 guys.
Yes, it does. It
It
does
looks
that.
more Dynamics 365, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There you go. This should be fine, and this should be fine.
Okay. Think refreshing that page, yeah.
Yeah, I need to refresh it.
Okay.
Whoa.
Or is it that it's taking a bit of time for it to
Yeah,
show?
it takes a bit of time actually to come up.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess this is where the error is coming from.
Okay, the first stage. Okay, you also have to share this with yourself, right?
Yeah,
Okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Let's give it a bit of time to flow.
Yeah. Okay. Like it has no choice but to show.
That's the
Yeah.
show. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of things in my environment today, so I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay. Okay. Is there any okay, you
Oh,
want to
no, I just want to be sure that deployment stage is active.
yeah, okay.
Wow.
When you had your presentation, during the user group. I think it was quite fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite fast. You had
Yes.
you had the demo gods with you that day.
Yeah, sometimes like that.
Yeah, you did. You did. Yeah.
I actually want to see what comes up here.
Okay.
It's not fair from Microsoft. Whoa,
Okay. Um,
but that's not what I want.
Okay, so you just created the one you created now just to see if that
Yeah, I want to
works.
see what comes up.
Yeah.
And I want to see where this is kept actually.
Okay.
We roll back and
Yeah,
we see
sure.
what we are missing.
Okay. Yeah.
Money security rules.
I think there's definitely something missing that's causing the issue. Yeah. So if you are listening, hi. So we are actually talking about ALM in Power Platform with deployment pipelines with Damola. And if you have any questions, if there's anything that we have done that you don't understand, you can easily just drop it on the comment section. Wherever you're joining from, whether on Twitter, whether on LinkedIn, or on my YouTube channel, you can just drop it and we'll answer your questions.
Sorry, I've been on mute. I'm trying to look for what I've missed.
Yeah, sure, it's fine. Okay.
Oh yeah, I see now.
Okay, you have to let. Okay.
Yeah, which is quite funny because I was thinking I don't think I need to add myself to all of this. So in in the environment, I need to be able to import from the source environment to the target environment.
Yeah. Yes, true. Definitely.
And because I'm using a sandbox, I've not added all the required environment that I need.
Okay.
So I'm just going to start adding the security rules I need now.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we'll go back here. Been using a lot of sandbox today, so
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I
I'm
understand
good.
why it's came up here.
Yeah, it's fine.
Broadcast
Especially when it
sandbox.
comes to pipelines, yeah.
You know what? I'm actually going to do something different here.
Okay.
It's quite funny.
Yeah. Okay.
It's coming up with a test for me, which is not what I want.
Yeah.
First stage. Okay, I'll add another stage for you. New
Okay.
test.
To see if that
I just
works, right?
Yeah, but I want to add another stage to it now.
Okay.
First stage and target environment. No pre-deployment, no exports. Okay.
Okay. And I think I love the little notification at the top where it has pipelines is a feature of managed environments. So it's
Environment.
telling,
You need to set up the manage environment
yeah,
in.
yeah, it's good.
Now, if I don't have the right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. I think waiting a bit to help.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can wait a bit. Then I start deploying this and see what happens.
Okay.
But this is supposed to pop up an error for me because I've removed some permissions from my account in the different environment, in the
Yeah.
target environment.
Okay. Okay. So it wants you to sign in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a test I'm using. Okay, so what comes up?
Yeah. I think one thing to do is that the blog post to be a very if you listen to this podcast, the blog post that Damola has on this deployment, creating of deployment, be a very good it will be a very good guide. And also this podcast on watching the step-by-step process on how this
Yeah,
pipeline is created. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to pick the blog post and share it on the screen.
I've been adding a lot of sandboxes today, so I've just been
Yeah.
using sandboxes for my, and I'm just missing something here.
Yeah, sure. Definitely fine. Okay, so this is the link to the blog post. You can check Damola out on Medium. Yeah, so and check on how to actually build pipelines inside of Power Platform. Yeah. Inside of your Power, going through the step of your Power Platform Admin Center, then going to your Power Apps and building your pipeline. Yeah. Okay. And don't forget to subscribe and follow everywhere. Yeah, follow everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So, Damala, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to complete the deployment. Then I try to. Sometimes you just need to refresh. and the deployment is done.
Okay.
I want to deploy version 2 then, and I want to restore. Yeah, just like I told you, this will not go through
Okay.
because I've removed some permissions.
Yeah, from it.
Yeah, try a different one that I normally use.
Okay.
This is like a demo solution. Okay, let's see what comes up.
Okay. I'm just pasting on the chat. Yeah. Hi, Damola. I think your mic is muted.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I think.
Yeah. So, if this is the first time you are listening to this podcast, it's called A Girl in Love with Tech podcast, where I invite individuals from the community to discuss Microsoft Power Platform, Microsoft technology. So, if you want to learn more about Microsoft technology, you want to learn about public speaking. The last episode I did was with Scott, where we talked about public speaking, the reason why you should improve your public speaking. And there are also previous episodes of fusion development in Power Platform. If you're a developer and you have doubts about coming into Power Platform, you're like, okay, I'm a developer. Why should I come into low code? I have 3 episodes where we talked about fusion development and the roles of a developer in Power Platform, and also other various videos on GitHub. On I think I've forgotten most of them. I think I've gotten to more than 20 to 30 videos now. I don't know how many it is, but it's been a lot. So there are a lot of videos. And also, if you're a student and you are listening to this podcast, you can watch the episode where we talked about the GitHub Student Developer Pack. And also, if you're a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, or if you're interested in joining the Microsoft MVP program, I have different episodes on A Girl in Love with Tech podcast where you can listen to them and learn more about how to go about joining the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program and the MVP program. Yeah.
Cool. So let's see what comes up here. If this is gonna go through. Okay, it's taking time to that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pick another solution. Of course, it's not coming up.
Yeah, sure. No problem. It's fine.
Let's just wait for that to complete the deployment then.
Okay.
I was using the demo solution. Yeah.
Yeah. The deployment is running in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I think I like it that it has a run history. You can easily go and check about, okay, how many pipelines stuff has been run here, stuff like that. Yeah, so it's cool.
yeah, so if you go into your deployment pipeline, you can see. Okay, so there's one I created. There's a pipeline I created, pretty easy
Test.
and cool. And yeah,
Yeah. So succeeded
yeah, this is
stage run.
completed already.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So when I'm trying to revert back to a different version,
Okay.
just like I said, I'm gonna show you during
Yes.
the start time. So I'll just try and deploy another version because the other one has been. We only have just one in the running history, so I'll deploy version 1.8. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this deploying. and we can see. So you can see list of all your deployments here. So for one
Yes.
funny reason or the other, the pipeline I created myself, I can't use it. But the pipeline Microsoft created for me, I can use it. Okay.
Yeah. It's
Well done,
fine. Yeah.
Microsoft. They are kind of like pushing people to start creating things themselves. So as soon
Yeah.
as you deploy pipelines to your environment, if you go to any of your solutions,
Okay.
I can create pipelines that I want. Shipping system, this is, and I can create a pipeline. New test two, and I want to deploy these to
Is this
any environment.
actually is this actually a new pipeline?
Yeah, I'm creating a new pipeline now, and I will add the target environment immediately. Okay, this
Okay.
is already associated with a different one.
Okay. And I think there's a question I want to ask is that do you think it is advisable to actually create pipelines from this particular place?
Yeah, no, no, no. For governance sake, it's not advisable. I get where
Okay.
the error is coming from now from the other pipeline. So
Yeah.
for governance sake, just to answer your question, for governance sake, this is actually not advisable because
Yeah.
now you start having, I mean, I can create my pipeline. Another developer can create his own pipeline.
Yes.
You can have hundreds of pipeline here,
Yeah.
and you start having issues managing each one of them.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit stressful.
Yeah, it's a little bit stressful from an administrator point of view.
Yeah. And I think all round too. I think all round,
All
especially
right.
I can't imagine having one. I can't imagine having 100 pipelines. That's I think that's a lot.
From users' perspective point of view, I mean, I'm not worried. When I was a developer as well, I don't
Yeah.
care. I just want to deploy. I prefer to just keep creating and creating and creating and creating and creating and do whatever it is that I want.
Yeah.
But on admin point of view, when you start having the point of view from administrator, compliance, governance, security, you
Yes.
don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the error why this other pipeline was not coming up. It was because I guess my previous pipeline environment that I deleted is
Yeah.
not yet properly cleaned up from my environment.
Okay.
And I couldn't get these because I was looking into the test environment that was associated with the previous pipeline before, so that I couldn't get help. So Sandbox is not working. Using the previous pipeline environment could have been much more better, but I
Better.
get people still get what I'm trying to do. And
Yeah.
from the test pipeline that was working, it's still the same thing. Link development environment. So this is source environment. You have
Okay.
everything linked together, and you
Yes.
have. Do you know what? I
Okay.
eventually got what was happening here.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be stupid, and sometimes you cannot. So come on. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Source environment. You can imagine how it has been.
I think I really love this part where the interface of the pipeline is actually modern driven app.
Yeah,
It makes it
model driven. Model driven is the best
yeah, it makes
because
it
Microsoft said so. But POV, I like Canvas app.
I think I'm in between. I favor both of them. I like both of them. Yeah.
So now I have reached your podcast.
Yeah.
This was the pipeline we are looking for since.
Okay, showing now. Yay.
Yeah. So it's up
That's
now.
good. Yeah. And what was the issue?
Okay. So in a funny way, after creating my pipeline, I did not
Okay.
link a development environment to it.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Just like I said, you need to link dev,
Yeah,
and from the dev is where you deploy stages.
okay.
So I jumped into stages,
Yeah,
without
That link.
having a dev.
Yeah, sure.
So
It's
without the
fine.
dev, it will never come up here for me to start deploying.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And I actually want to show reversing back to a previous pipeline,
But
just like you asked before.
yeah.
So I'll go to the other pipeline I'm using. I'll look for my run history.
Okay.
Oh no,
And
I don't have anyone for this.
if you're listening to this podcast, don't forget to follow and to subscribe to my YouTube channel where I have other podcasts, where I have other episodes on ALM and also Power Platform and other Microsoft technology. Yeah.
Okay, I think I've not enabled this to deploy back, and
Yeah.
just try and do that for this now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can see it now, right?
Yeah, you can more details. You can either redeploy, and I guess when I start having different ones now, then I will be able to look for, because it was not enabled before for the pipeline.
Okay.
Now I've enabled it. When I deploy a new one, I will be able to revert back to an old pipeline, to an
Yeah.
old
I think that's
version, and
good
redeploy
version.
to this environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That I think that's perfect. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think it all settles it now. And it's kind of
Yeah.
cool because I was able to figure out what was eventually wrong with this.
Yeah. I think that's what I
And
love
it's
about
actually
demo.
linking a development environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I love
Demo
about
gives you
demos.
another chance to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared of demos, but at least when you're working on a demo, you get to see, especially people that are listening or watching, they get to see different scenarios that they can have an error while building that
Yeah. Yeah.
particular structure. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah.
I think we are all okay now with setting it up. So if you watch this video back, you'll be able to set up and deploy across your pipelines.
Yeah. Thank you
And
so
are
much.
you satisfied, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm over satisfied. And definitely I'm going to check this out because I had an idea. And I think the first time you did this on the presentation on the user group, that was the first time I saw
Yep.
this. I was like, okay, this is amazing. I like this. It's easy
Yeah.
and I
Cool.
don't have to, yeah, it's easy. It's nice. Thank you. And thank you so
Yep.
much, everyone, for joining us. And in total, we had 51 persons who joined us for this live stream. So thank you so much for joining us and see you in the next podcast. Bye.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.